So we're gonna try something a little different. We're going to pull the frets from a guitar neck and make a fretless guitar, but we're not gonna fill the fret slots. We're gonna make them wider. Let's give it a shot. All right, so here's the Mule. Mule is a guitar that just lives in the shop, and it's for all my experimentation needs. Anytime I need to experiment with electronics, pickups, paint, even laser engravings, whatever. This is the Mule. He does all the hard work. So nice guitars don't have to be touched. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this neck. We're going to remove all the frets. And then we're going to sand this down. I don't even know what type of wood this is. It doesn't even look like real wood. It almost looks like engineered wood. It doesn't matter. And we're going to try something different. Try something new. We're going to experiment with this. All right, let's get started. Let's just disassemble this whole thing. So essentially these slots are 4 millimeters wide. So 2 mil to the left and 2 mil to the right of that original slot. Just do that all the way down. So that means the intonation moves from the center of that fret line or the crown of the fret, and it moves that intonation point to the edge of this slot, 2 millimeters down on all of these, which means my nut is off. So I had to move this down 2 mil. You can see there's a tiny little shelf there. I move the nut this way 2 mil. So I'll be putting my nut here 2 mil closer, and that should account for the intonation. Ooh, all right, so this is done. This is after sanding, applying the black stain, and also sheeting it with satin nitro. So I did apply 2 coats of satin nitro onto this fretboard. There's only one reason why I did that, and that's to protect my fingers from getting black stain on them. No other reason. Remember, this is an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work. I didn't put a lot of time or effort into it. The proper way to do something like this would be to pull the frets like we did, then sand, then apply a resin on the top of this fretboard to harden it and protect it from the strings, then machining the slots. So here's where we're at. Now all we have to do is assemble. It's as simple as that. I'm gonna assemble this, then I'm gonna find a nut that'll fit, and then we're going to have to slot that nut now to the new fretboard height. But we can't do that till we put this on the guitar. So let's go ahead and do that. So this came out pretty darn good. So what I ended up doing was making 4 millimeter slots. That means you have 2 millimeters to the left of the original fret slot and 2 millimeters to the right. That's how wide these grooves or slots are. And it works. So the idea is you can have that sort of fretless feel if you have a light touch, but then you can actually put your finger on the groove and fret the note. And it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. And the one thing that I just realized is that you probably need wider slots. So I first thought that maybe the slot should be the width of a finger, but then the higher up you go down the fretboard, those slots would probably touch, and that worried me, but now it doesn't. So what I think I'm gonna do is take the strings off, put this back on the CNC, and make the slots wider. Maybe go as far as 6 mil, maybe 7. But let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like first. So if I put my fingers right on those grooves or slots, it's basically fretting the string. And so you get that attack as opposed to playing like in between the frets, where you get that kind of like rounded off warm sound. So this really is the best of both worlds. You can have that sort of sliding fretless feel when you're just lightly touching. But if you press down a little bit harder, your finger will slide and get stuck to the next fret. So you kind of like land on the right fret. And listen to that. It almost sounds like a fretted string. So some of the issues that I was having were, because you have to lower the strings quite a bit, you might have to shim the neck because these saddles won't go down any lower. So the string height is pretty high here at the heel. So to compensate for that, you have to shim the neck. No big deal. The other thing that's kind of strange is because the strings are so low now, my pick is hitting the pick guard. Like every single time I stroke, there's like no room there because everything's so low. Just like a fretted instrument. And obviously you approach an instrument like this differently. You wouldn't approach this like you would a guitar. It's a different instrument in a sense. Keep hitting that pick guard every single time. But yeah, it feels like a fretted instrument and it can feel like a fretless. You play in between the frets. And the other thing to think about is intonation. This is one of the other things I ran into, where this is pretty much as far back as the saddles will go. And you do have to push these saddles backwards because basically all the intonation moved down. So this definitely would work for like a custom build, but for retrofitting something like this, you'd either need to remove the springs to get these to go all the way back or just reposition the bridge. So a really good fretless sound, and then if I wanted to fret it, I could just go on those grooves. You kind of get that crisper, more like a tack sound to it than just going in between. So you get the best of both worlds really with something like this, but it's not perfect. It was just an experiment, proof of concept, see if something like this would indeed work, and it actually does. So another cool weekend experiment you can try with any old fretboard. Or if you wanted to build a bass that wanted to be basically a fretless / fretted instrument, something like this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy.